Hey guys, just wanted to do an update on my Mongoose builds, specifically the one with a 2440 size motor. Testing how it goes. I've already made a video on that. So yeah, just wanted to do an update. So this motor was actually in this buggy, and yeah, I ran it on 3 and 4S with this ESC. And yeah, it ran pretty well. Didn't have any like cogging issues or overheating issues or anything like that. Did get a little bit hot on 4S if I ran it for too long, so I was just careful not to do that. I did have this one on brushed before, and I wanted to just try that little motor because I had it available and it was just a test and seemed to work really well. But I had actually ordered a new brushed motor for it, and I got that one in the mail. So after I did all those testings, I decided to put it back in because I was eager to test that out. So it's one of these Chinese copy super sport motors, and you can get them in a whole bunch of specifications. I think up to 40 something turn, and yeah, starting from 12 turn. So I ordered the 12 turn version, obviously because wanted something for speed, not for crawling. And yeah, I've ordered a similar motor in the past. So Ghoul RC / Surplus Hobby made those 13 turn 540 open bell motors. And yeah, they were good for about 29,000 RPM on 2S. And so this one supposedly was rated for 32,000 RPM on 2S, and understandably, if you did that, it would get quite hot. So what I did with this one is I put a 17 tooth pinion in it for my initial testings. So stock standard, these cars, they come with a 23 tooth pinion with a 3300 kV motor, which is good for about 52 kilometers an hour on 2S, and the RPM would be around about 24,000 RPM on 2S. So yeah, theoretically speaking, 12 turn 540, even though it won't be as efficient and you wouldn't be able to load it up, the no load RPM should be quicker. And yeah, it did not reflect that. Even when I put a really low tooth pinion in, the speed was quite slow. So I'm thinking that they may have actually given me the 17 turn version, which actually, when I ran the numbers, actually makes quite a lot of sense, because I put a 22 tooth pinion in it, and I got 47 kilometers an hour on 2S. And after running it in, just doing a dry run-in method, not braking too hard, cooling it with an air gun after every couple of minutes, and being smooth on the throttle, smooth and steady. I've got up to 51 kilometers an hour with a 20 tooth pinion, which calculates to 3,300 kV or 24,000 RPM on a 2S LiPo, which is actually smack on what they say the RPM should be for a 17 turn version of this motor. So I'm thinking maybe they put just the wrong sticker on. If I really wanted to check, I'd have to open it up and count the windings, or I could put a multimeter on there and test the no load current on it. But I'm happy with this. I'm not going to be bothered with that. 51 kilometers an hour is actually kind of where I wanted the speed for it to be. With these brushed motors, yeah, you can push them up to 80 kilometers an hour. But yeah, at that point, you're only going to get one or two runs out of them before you either kill the brushes or kill the magnets on it. It's yeah, not worth it. So yeah, and now that I've run it in, it does run a little bit cooler. Not as cool as this motor. So this one on 4S did 68 kilometers an hour. But that was with this ESC. So the thing is, the reason I put this motor in this car is because there are a few people that kind of asking for some off-road running with this motor, which makes sense. I've done some on-road running. I actually took this one to the track at Baronia track. It went exceptionally well. Yeah, I better than this motor. The problem with this motor was yeah, with buggies running on road, they're not typically designed for that, and with their extra traction, a lot of the time coming out of the corner, with the extra weight and the extra torque, they want to wheelie, which sounds cool when you're kind of just driving on the street, but it also means the front wheels aren't touching the ground, so you're getting no steering. So there's a few times where you kind of unexpectedly wheelie and you miss the corner and you can't turn and you go on the side or hit the edge. So that was actually quite annoying. And yeah, I mean, I did try to play with my expos and throttle rates and that kind of stuff, but with the throttle rates and with the endpoints, that also affects your top speed as well. So if you want to keep your top speed but have your not as much, oh my goodness, my cat, this is my cat. Anyway, if you want to do that, yeah, you have to get into your expos, or even adjusting the punch levels doesn't always do that, because say if you put the highest amount of punch, it just means you're gonna wheelie early on in the rev range, and if you put your punch level lower, it just means there's a bit of a delay. So what will happen is, you go full throttle, kind of ease into it, and then suddenly it will just kind of wheelie without you having real control. So that's also kind of why I like to put my punch levels on the highest, just because you seem to have more control on that. But just as another side note as well with punch levels, I notice a lot of people when they're running cars like that are running too high gearing or too small motors, and the vehicles cogging like a lot of those first generation 12 scale WL toys, they get a program card and they'd put the punch level to the highest to try to fix the problem, which is actually the opposite what you should do. So if you're having cogging issues, you actually should reduce your punch, because what is happening is yeah, there's too much load for the motor to handle, and when you have your punch level up, it's kind of trying to draw the most amount of current too soon, and so yeah, you're getting that cogging. But if you kind of put your punch level low, it kind of eases into it, so it does take off a bit, obviously slower. You don't get that hit, but it is a way of reducing cogging, which I've found from experience from other RC vehicles as well. So that's just an interesting side note. Yeah, so back to this. Yeah, it went exceptionally well on the track. Yeah, these are the second set of tires I had on it. I wore out my first one. This is at Baronia track, not Lilydale, so it's a lot tighter and more technical. And yeah, I was racing my brother, who had a 12th scale mid-motor two-wheel drive buggy with a 2838 4200 kV motor. And yeah, surprisingly this on 3S yeah, kept cooler than that. Yeah, also another thing, I did a speed run with this motor and on 3S with 18 tooth pinion. Yeah, and it gets 51 kilometers an hour, which is pretty much perfect because it means that both this car and this car are very evenly matched in terms of top speed. So when we want to race them, yeah, there's not going to be a huge amount of difference. Yeah, so obviously this is a 2S motor running a 22 tooth pinion, and that's running an 18 tooth pinion on 3S. And yeah, like this motor is rated for up to 4S. This one's only rated to 2, but when you run on this one on 3 with that gearing, it's pretty good. Yeah, so given they're the same speed, this motor actually, this brushed one, unsurprisingly when compared to a brushless motor, but I suppose surprisingly when compared to a motor this size, this will run hotter. So you'll have to give this one more brakes. You know, if you don't want to, if you're kind of careful. So, you know, you don't want to just run a 6,000 milliamp hour battery and just kind of go flat out the whole time. You can probably do that. But if you want to look after your motor, just give it a little break every now and then. I ran this one with a 3,000 milliamp hour battery instead of a 2200 for the whole time, and yeah, the motor was fine actually. So, and yeah, by the way, this ESC is 2 to 3S rated. So one of the reasons for not changing it over to this ESC is it's just I didn't have. First of all, I already had this one in here, and I already kind of put double-sided tape in there, and didn't want to take it out just so quickly again. And yeah, this one I just left in here instead of putting this one in because this one fits a lot nicer. This one was actually a little bit too big. I had trouble having the body on it. I thought that I could remove the fan. I mean, you can remove the plug for the fan, and there are screws here, but when trying to do so, I discovered that the fan is actually super glued to it, so you can't actually remove the fan, which is annoying, because I wanted to reduce my weight on it, and the little motor doesn't draw much amps on it. So yeah, as I was saying, on the track, there was a guy with a phaser with a 14-turn 550 motor, which they're pretty good for a brushed motor actually. Probably one of the better brushed motors you can get. This was faster top speed and just acceleration. It probably had better consistency with handling. So the thing about a two-wheel drive buggy is they have a natural understeer tendency, which is also why I put the motor in the rear. Which is why I put a smaller motor in the rear. So yeah, you have to kind of finesse them around a hard grip surface. So they'll kind of want to understeer, and then what you have to do is you have to kind of get on the brakes and turn it in at the same time to kick the back around, and then you kind of have to get back on the power. And what will happen sometimes when you get back on the power, if you've got too much grip, it will want to stand up and understeer, and other times if you don't have enough grip, the wheels will slip and it will oversteer. So yeah, it's quite a balance between understeering and oversteering. And yeah, you can't just kind of throw it into the corners and be as smooth as you would with a touring car. If I got everything right, with that, I was a tiny bit quicker sometimes. Like I would overtake him maybe like 1 or 2 times. But yeah, he would just be a lot more consistent. Yeah, and he's practicing for like club events and all that kind of stuff. So he's seemed to be pretty good. But yeah, it was interesting throwing a bit of chaos into the mix because obviously, yeah, the buggy doesn't always get it right. Yeah, it's a bit harder. Doesn't take the same lines. It can flip over. Yeah, but I mean that was all part of the fun. Like a touring car is good, and obviously it's more ideal for tracks like that. But yeah, I guess it can be a little bit boring. Because you pretty much doing the same thing, taking the same lines, just kind of getting a little bit more precise and a little bit better with something like this. You really have to hustle it. You really have to be aggressive and brake and turn and swing the rear around and then get on the power just at the right time and get it right. And it looks pretty cool when you get it right. So anyway, so what am I going to do with these now? Yeah, I'll probably put them in something like short cost truck. I found one on Marketplace, a Helion Select 4, which yeah, no, they're pretty good, and obviously not as good as something like an Associated or Losi or something like that, but yeah, for the price, they seem pretty good. And yeah, it's full rolling chassis, comes with a body, comes with a servo. You can still get parts for them. I think Vicar make a clone of it as well. So yeah, and they come with you know a 3300 kV motor as standard. So it's kind of I'll be putting this into something that it's kind of designed for. So yeah, and yeah, with this, yeah, what I plan on doing from this point on is putting some off-road tires on it, doing a few jumps, doing it in grass. Um, might borrow a heat gun. I don't have one. I just use my thumb off of someone just to show that I can run it for a while and not overheat it. And yeah, may even take it to a 1/10 scale buggy track and you know do some running with it there, because yeah, that was one of the criticisms that I got with my last video. But yeah, no, I don't see any problems with it. Um, going off road and especially bashing, because you're not on the power and on the brakes like constantly all the time. So even if it's an on-road track, you do notice temperatures go up a lot faster than when you're bashing it as well. So yeah. Anyway, uh, yeah, and I'll see if I can get some footage of this one as well. This went really really well at the Lilydale track. With a wider offset wheels. And just with these tires on it that are kind of just rib tires worn down. On the tight track, didn't go so well on the tight track with the larger rear track, because it makes it more stable having a wider rear track, but it also reduces the turn in as well. So yeah, I think but it's kind of a good learning experience. I think if I'm running on Lilydale, I'll probably go opt for this wider track, and then if I'm running at Baronia, probably opt for this narrower track. So anyway, it's a lot of talking. So yeah, anyway, I'll stay safe and enjoy the hobby, and yeah, I'll see you next video.